Welcome to the True You Summit. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and Chief Mom Officer at the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you this summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that's aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. I hope you enjoyed this limited time free interview with one of the 15 experts that are here to discuss how you can get closer to your true you. Each day of the summit, we will explore 5 different areas of your life where you can improve your connection to your true you as a busy mom. Parenting, mom life, authenticity, spirituality, and mind and body. You'll have 24 hours free access to listen to the 3 experts discussing the topic of the day. Otherwise, you can purchase lifetime access to these life-changing series of interviews. There are 2 different packages available. The basic package, which includes all 15 interviews in MP3 format, can be purchased for $29, or the deluxe package, which includes all 15 interviews in audio, video, and transcript format, so you can get this great information whichever way you prefer. Plus, the deluxe package also includes bonus PDFs. One is the How to Connect to Your True You guide. It highlights the ways that the experts shared in their interview as to how they personally connect to their true selves, as well as the common ideas and themes throughout. So if you're new to connecting to your true you, or you're out of practice, you can start trying on these different ways of getting in tune with your inner wisdom, intuition, and true self right away. The second bonus PDF is Key Takeaways from the Summit. As I was recording all of these interviews, I noticed common themes and threads throughout. And this bonus document highlights these keys, so you'll be sure to get the most important ideas and begin to make shifts towards a happier, joyful, more aligned, and more fulfilled mom life today. The $29 and $59 prices for the basic and deluxe packages are good now through the end of the summit on May 10th. After that, the prices will go up to $59 and $89 respectively. So if you think you're going to miss any of these great interviews, or you'll know you want to have lifetime access to them, be sure to grab your True You Summit package upgrade today. Here's today's interview. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, and welcome to the True You Summit presented by the Modern Mom Society. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and Chief Mom Officer over at the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you this summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that's aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. Today's expert is Christina Fletcher. Christina is an energy healer and spiritually aware parent coach. She specializes in helping moms tune into their truest selves so they can shine authentically for their children and in all elements of their lives. Through her courses, coaching, and new membership program, she loves to get parents quick processes so they can tune in quickly no matter what the chaos is around them. When I stumbled upon Christina's website, I knew she'd be a perfect fit for this summit, so I was thrilled to have her participate. We discussed parenting from a spiritually aware perspective, how to connect to your inner wisdom and true self, and parent from a space of calm centeredness. Who doesn't need that, right? Which, if you're anything like me, it can be challenging when there's so much going on and our kids are driving us nuts. Christina gives a lot of practical suggestions as to how we can find our centers, especially those of us who have been disconnected from our inner wisdom for a while. Let's dive right into this conversation. Here's the interview. Well, welcome to the True You Summit, Christina. I couldn't have found a more perfect person to have here, so I'm excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to be talking to you too. Thank you.
All right, well, let's jump right in. So your business is called Spiritually Aware Parenting, and how is it that you came to focus your coaching practice around spirituality and parenting?
Well, I think probably the spirituality came first, where that had always been my natural home. I think everything that I had been doing before becoming a parent, how I met my husband, it was all spiritually led. So for the longest while, I was living, I studied spirituality, I studied religious studies in university. It was like where my world was and my passion. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves parents, and we found ourselves pregnant, and then we found ourselves pregnant again, and had 2 babies within 10 months of each other. And it was like,
OMG. Mine were 2 years apart. I can't imagine.
It was a surprise.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
Right.
The second daughter, she decided, no, I want to be part of this family really fast. And I went,
yeah. Okay.
And I have to say, I lost my spiritual connection. I lost my sense of myself. I fell into this paradigm of what parents should do and what parenting should look like.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been living things so magically up to that point in just this flow. I mean, of course, not all the time, but, you know,
sure.
with the general foundation of that concept of authentic living and flow. Oprah, no. And all of a sudden, I was a mom, and it felt like someone put a fishbowl over my head and said, "You're a mom," and I just went. I felt like I was drowning. Like, honestly, I just felt like I was in this chaos of just not understanding who I was anymore. And you know, like, I would be mad, I would be stressed out, and I would be like struggling with trying to figure out how to take these two girls and not have them wanting to attack each other. And I was like, what do I do? How do I deal with this? And I wanted them, all I knew was that I wanted them to know themselves. I wanted them to have a true sense of who they were and to not fall into the trap of being a child. And so within that, I think that's really where it was born. And then one day I just woke up and went, I want to choose to feel good. I want to be back to feeling like myself again. And within that, it just kind of fishbowl came off, and then that was what the goal was. And then when my son was born a few years later, he's 9 now, but when he was born a few years later, I developed that into my pregnancy and how I connected with him as who he was and how I made sure that we worked together spiritually and how we kind of unfolded with that. And so since then, over the last 9 years, that was where my parenting went. It was spiritually first. Mind, body, spirit, but spirit as that foundational core, because we're just physical beings having, you know, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, you know. So this is just, you know, the last manifestation of this journey. So in that understanding, I just went, well, it makes sense that we are dealing with spirit first with our kids. So that's kind of where it all, step by step.
Yeah. And for me, I found that the parenting experience has been the most spiritual thing of my life, really.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, because when you shift into spiritual tools within your parenting, different things take on priority. Tantrums click into a different reality, because you go, oh, you're feeling off. You're feeling disconnected from who you really are. Okay, so how do we actually expand into that? Or your own temper, you go, I need to ground. I need to find center. I need to be me. This is what this is indicating. It's not an outside. People chase parenting solutions. You know, they chase what they need to do in life.
The quick fix, right?
It's the quick fix. Oh my God, this looks so bad. This shopping trip looks so horrendous, and all these people are watching this meltdown. What am I going to do to get this done? And when you see it spiritually, it's just all just opens up into this magical package where you go, what can I learn here? What am I growing here? How do I expand here? And how can I pass this on to my kids? So it just all turns on its head. It's almost like, you know, through a looking glass kind of thing, where you just go, oh, this is so not what everybody's saying it is. And
yes.
Yeah. And then you have the mindfulness practice too of playing, you know, like the spiritual connection I've felt in a good imaginary game with my kids. When you're there and you just feel tingles because you're just so in the moment and you're so present and you're just like, oh, so good. Or the awareness to like a nature walk because you're with kids, or the simple moments of being present, and you just all folds in beautifully. So definitely a huge spiritual experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like society really focuses on, you know, trying to control the situation and putting on Band-Aids to control behavior and the quick fixes and things like that, where it's not that really. I mean, when you step outside of the situation and look at it from a spiritual perspective and why your kids might be behaving the way that they're behaving and what they're actually needing in the moment, it totally changes things.
Yep.
So can you expand a little bit on how you've put yourself in a difficult situation with your child and how you've applied spiritual tools to solve, say, a tantrum?
Say a tantrum? Well, within a tantrum, it always is, from my perspective of it, you have your spiritual self, and when you're in spirit, when you're totally aligned to who you are, you feel full of joy. And a child has a tantrum and you know that they are so disconnected. It feels so bad for a kid to feel separate from themselves, from their full, and when I say themselves, I mean their full spiritual sense of who they are, their energy totally flowing all the way through them and feeling grounded. And when all of those big head chattering things of pressure, or being told what to do all the time, or feeling frustrated of you can't doing something, and all those pressures build up, they just take a step away from who they are. And that feels so bad. It just feels so bad. It feels like, the absolute torture for a small child. It just grates on their nerves. And everything goes into overblown sensitivity, because their senses are just all over the place. Because for a small child, when, like picking up a stone, they're so in the moment. They can look at that stone and it's perfect mindfulness. Their entire focus is engrossed in that moment. And if you fragment that, and they're being told what to do, or they're being pulled around, or everything's just too frustrating, all of that focus and all that energy just goes, And spiritually, they just can't connect. They just can't find that sense of themselves. And that's where that is. So to approach that from a parent for spiritually understanding that, well, I mean, I'm also an energy healer. So my first reaction is always to go to the feet to help them find grounding. So I'll hold their feet. And so that draws their attention to their feet, which where attention goes, energy flows. So energy is a full system. So I'll get down on the ground and I'll hold their feet if they'll let me. Or if they won't let me, I'll just put my hands close to their feet on the ground and just hold space for them and remind them to deep breathe. And I'll talk slowly to help them find that balance. And then once that starts bridging, if they're old enough, I'll start talking about what's working and how to appreciate different things and appreciating different elements of the situation. So then it moves into a step-by-step up the emotional scale type of thing. So that they can find more center in themselves. And once they find that center, then you talk about what happened after. I never go into the fix in the chaos.
Trying to reason with them when they're like off the handle.
You just go, why would anyone? It's like, let's jump totally into the fire. It's like, no, you're not going to get there from, there. It's just not going to work. And so find the ground and find the center. And what's beautiful is that with anything with spiritual parenting, when you start working on helping your child find center, you have to find your own center first. And that's always where it works. It's always mirroring all the time. And it's just such a beautiful little gift, because you cannot help a child find center if you're not grounded. You can't, and also you can't be ranting and raving and screaming and shouting in total chaos and not expect your child to do the same. So you have to do the self-care work and do the self-development in order to be a good parent. And I just go, when that clicked, it was just like, wow, oh my, isn't that amazing? What an amazing gift. Because you just go, everybody always thinks they don't have time for self-care because they want to be a good parent. And you go, if you want to be a good parent, do the self-care. It takes very long. Just find that center.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of moms who are just struggling with the day-to-day, and they're finding themselves yelling at their kids all the time, and they can't seem to find the center for themselves. So do you find that it's primarily self-care, or do you have other tools in your spiritual toolbox that help moms at least find ground zero?
Well, see, for me, self-care, when I say self-care, I mean like those, I do not mean like 20-minute meditations or hour-long baths or yoga classes or anything. To me, self-care is like waking up in the morning, looking out the window and giving thanks for being alive and giving thanks for being here. For me, self-care is stopping for a moment and, hands on heart, breathing deep 5 times and just connecting to that deeper sense of yourself. Self-care is going out and buying a beautiful crystal that you really connect to, or acknowledging, doing appreciation, at night, just writing appreciations down of what you appreciate in your life. It's those little tiny things, or even just focusing on your feet, like whenever it's those in the moment, in the chaos time. I think we have a tendency in society to think of self-care as these almost unattainable goals as a parent. And we kind of create this friction between self-care time and chaos living time. And I think that's really harmful. I think we've done a lot of parents
to compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
When it really should be a part of your day. And for me, it's just some of the basic stuff like, am I rested? Did I have enough time to myself? Do I have enough time with my spouse? Am I eating well? Like simple, like what you would do for your own child, making sure that they're fed and rested, and finding joy too, I find is another really important thing that is a simple thing that's really overlooked. Nice.
Well, and it's so, it can be as simple as, being in a traffic jam and sitting at a red light. And rather than being like, oh my God, I'm late. Self-care can be the shift to, great, a red light, I can stop. I can be here. Oh, look at the birds and the trees. Or, oh my goodness, I never saw that over there before. Oh, I'm really appreciating the beautiful sun coming through the window. Those things can be simple self-care. And we've made it such a big trigger issue. It's like self-care.
I know.
And everybody goes, I don't have time. And you just go, you know what? When you're washing those dishes and your mind's chattering on your to-do list.
Like, oh my God, I have more dishes I have to wash.
Right? Yeah. It can be as simple as, oh, wow, I'm just enjoying the washing of this or clearing of this, or, oh, I can't believe they're old enough now to actually not be using plastic dishes. Like those those kind of things are actually self-care practices. And because what are you doing in that? You're acknowledging that yourself is how you feel. You're acknowledging yourself is how the thoughts that are manifesting those emotions. You're acknowledging your whole emotional, spiritual state, and you're caring for that. And so it's those simple little switches, and so not the big self-care concept.
Yeah, for sure. And the shift in to gratitude, or like going back to your example of or even with your traffic jam example, like sitting there and being like, oh my gosh, I'm late is not going to get you there any faster.
Really isn't.
So you just got to kind of accept the moment and realize it is what it is and try to make the best of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always, a tool that actually my daughter helped me discover, because she was one of these, our second daughter was just one of these, she was always feeling everything super strongly. And she would feel it like if she was off, she was really off. And when she was on, she was really, really on. And if you put colorings in the mix into that, oh my God, you just had, it's just like a nightmare. It's like, what the heck? Roller coaster child.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting because when she was off, we once had a conversation just about the simple concept of looking for things to say at least about. So this became our game of just, if you're feeling really bad or feeling really stressed, just a few sentences that begin with the words, well, at least. And you just
make it as silly as possible.
And well, it started off with just like, well, at least, oh, here she goes again. But by the fourth or fifth choice, she'd be killing herself laughing, and I would watch as she would just go switch, and she'd be off playing and killing herself laughing. And you're like, wow, okay,
I love that.
Yeah, it's like, so you don't need any processing. You don't need any it's just like. There's no natural stewing here, is there? There's just like, done. So yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah. And I want to touch back on like ourselves and how we can find our inner truth and have that guide our parenting, because I think that is something that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before when you were in the fishbowl, and you have the whole world telling you what you should be and shouldn't be doing as a parent. So how do we uncover our inner truth and have that guide the choices that we make as a parent?
It's a few steps, really, I think. I think because, first of all, you have to acknowledge and be really vulnerable in the space of knowing if you know that inner voice, or if you ever knew that inner voice, because often we've lost it from the time we were teens. There's a lot of people who, once they hit teens, all of a sudden the world's chatter has entered and we get a cloudy vision. So you have to be a little vulnerable and say, so if I think back to when I was a kid, before this really invaded my space, can I relate to my inner voice and my inner guidance system? And it's okay to say, no, actually, I've really lost that. You know, it's okay. I think the step that kind of helps bridge into that is emotional guidance. If you're knowing that as your true self, call it your spiritual self, call it your true essence, whoever you are, you really are naturally light. You are love. You are vibrant. You are filled with joy. That is your natural state. And so often we've been watered down from that. And if you remember that your emotional guidance kind of will give you indicators of how close you are to that. So if you're feeling satisfied or hopeful or happy or, you know, a little bit dancy, then you know that you're pretty close to who you are. If you're starting to feel stressed or tense or uptight or angry or frustrated or resentful or despairing, you're moving away from yourself. So understanding your emotions, I think, is a really good key. If you can look at something and feel joy, you know it's aligned to you. And that's true with choices in parenting. If you start to feel, if you look at a choice before you and you feel relief to one, go with that one. And that's a good indicator. If you start to feel, you know, sometimes it feels really, really good to say yes to your kids, even though the whole world is telling you to say no. Sometimes you just go, you know what? Go for it. And you just go, oh, that feels so nice. Do it. It feels good to connect with your child as the person they are, rather than always having to be the role of being a mom, you know? It feels good to let that go. So following your emotions, definitely. And then if you do know a true connection of your inner self, and you can call that up within you, then remembering that gap, remembering to create that space, to take that moment, that you don't have to pick up the speed of what you're being offered. Kids move fast. You know, kids will present a situation to you and it will barrel along. And as you know, and barreling is actually a really good imagery for that, because sometimes we feel like we're dancing on the barrels. You know, it's like, oh my God, how do we keep up? How do we keep up? How do we keep up? It's okay to jump off the barrels, stand at the side and say, hold on, everybody. I need to find myself in this right now. I need to get grounded. I need to get centered. Be vulnerable to stop, admit where you are and say, you know, there's a great Abraham Hicks quote where they say that stress is your spirit's way of saying, I'm sorry, I can't go there with you. And I just go, if you find yourself getting stressed, take that step back and just go, I've got to be all of myself in this moment. And when you find that, then you'll find that your authentic voice will kick in and your guidance will kick in and solutions will flow in. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the I haven't decided yet answer.
Yeah. It's a good answer. You know, I have no idea. I'm also a really big fan of, I gotta say, I've never parented anyone your ages before, or I've never been in this exact situation before. So we have to figure this out. Let's figure this out. I don't know. What feels good? What feels like the best choice of us? How do we feel like ourselves in this situation? Kids, even like 4 or 5-year-olds, you can start to relate about what feels like you, or what feels good to you, what feels like the right choice to you. And you can start having those conversations, you know, we, just like they don't have to barrel along and us catching up, we don't have to barrel along banging on the, I'm the parent, I know this stuff drum. It doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
Too much friction, way too much pressure.
Yeah. Do you find though that, you know, trying to, you know, the difference between making the right choice by your child and the easy choice, you know, like your kid is whining for the screen time and you know it's probably not a good idea, but you're like, well, it'll be easier, and like trying to navigate the, you know, what's right by your kids versus what seems like the easier choice at the time. Do you find that with, you know, touching in with your emotions, that sort of dance gets a little bit easier?
Yeah. If you wait, because the easy choice never feels very good when you actually hold it, because you always feel like it's like, but it'd be so easy. And you can feel that kind of like, yeah, but I'm going to feel like I really let this down. I really dropped the ball if I let this one roll. And so, yeah, if you look at your emotional guidance in that, and you actually, and you give yourself some space for, you could call it failure, or you could call it experimenting. Because you give yourself the space to be like, I am going to go the easy route this time, and I'm going to see how it feels. And then you kind of go, well, that felt awful. You know? So you can try yourself, you know, you give yourself some leeway that you try it out a little bit. You know, I had a couple of years where, yeah, I did lose it. And I would, you know, get mad, and I would shout, and I would flip out. And my daughters will tell you, thank God she stopped that one. And it was like our experimental time where I was trying what I was told to do. And it felt bad. If I had just jumped into this form of parenting, I might not have had that clarity. You know, you have to give yourself a little bit of leeway. I could sit here going, oh, I just tried them for 2 years because I was like that. And I could totally build that up for myself. Or I could say, you know what, guys? Thank you. You taught me so much because you gave me that awareness. You gave me those tools. I am a better parent now because of that time. Awesome. And they go, anytime, Mom, you know.
Yeah. And one of the things that somebody told me once along the way is that your kids benefit from seeing you mess up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because, I mean, if you're perfect all the time and you never lose your cool, and what kind of example are you showing that, like, that's how humans are supposed to operate? Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
No, absolutely. There's a freedom, and there's an ultimate tool for our kids when we are open and honest about our mess ups, about our bad days, about our stress, about, like, my girls are now teenagers. They are the best life coaches. They will turn to me and be like, Mom, you know, just step away. and then,
You've trained them well. You've trained them well.
And they just know, you know. And I think if I had continued along the parenting path that I originally started off with, of not parenting from this thing, I think I would have had a lot of pride issues wrapped up in that. I think I would have felt really overexposed. I would have felt like I'd been kind of usurped. I would have felt really defensive. And the fact that I have this relationship with them that they can tell me, Mom, take a chill pill. It's all good. And I can be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. You're so right. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. We should watch a funny movie. Yeah, you're right. We should, like, you know, I should take the rest of the afternoon off, and we should go do something. Those words to your kids, to be able to say that, yeah, you're right. You don't say that enough.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, for your, like, maybe you, when you were first getting back in touch with your spirit, and if for your clients, do you find that once they start checking in with those emotions and making choices based on what feels better, that the inner voice gets louder?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yes. I think it depends on the client, and I think it depends on the belief system that they're coming out from. And that's why when I started introducing the energy work with that, I think that it all kind of allowed for some space. Okay, for instance, like, I just had a client write to me today, and she was like, okay, so when I get a pull towards something and I get tingles, you know, and I kind of feel shivers over one choice, what is that? You know, and she was like, what, you know, is that what I should be looking for? And it was like, absolutely. You know, that feeling of alignment, that feeling of excitement when you're feeling something, often spirit will move through that feeling. Mm-hmm. Often having something, you know, I always encourage my clients to follow those callings. But then also it can be like, you know what? Go grab a pack of oracle cards and let's see what comes up. Or let's grab a pendulum. And you know, sometimes I work with people who haven't actually been used to that kind of metaphysical element to things. Right. And you go, it's the same as flipping a coin. You know, see what comes up. Let's just see what's being conspired by your spirit, by the universe, by what's kind of coming in from your higher self. Mm-hmm. What are your options? And that's where the getting used to what your inner voice sounds like kind of kicks in.
Because I get the sense that inner voice, the inner voice thing, I mean, at least for me, it's been a slow practice getting back to that, because a lot of my life was following somebody else's playbook, like following the rules that this is what you should be doing kind of a thing. And trying to get in touch with that inner voice and my inner guidance has been a slow process. Yep. And I suspect that there are a lot of moms out there, especially the ones that are in the fishbowl stage, where they're following everybody else's words of wisdom and what they should be doing, that inner voice is a completely foreign concept to them. So the reason for that question was just trying to see about how, you know, what that process looks like for getting more in touch with their true selves. So I love that explanation. Yeah.
Well, and really, you know, it's interesting because we're not used to quiet anymore. And I think that, you know, phones, we have a lot of, even if you could think of yourself as sitting in quiet, and you know, you see nursing moms and they'll sit there on their phone while they nurse, and you're like, there's so many opportunities for quiet that we no longer take advantage of. Or even it used to be that those moments of quiet were forced upon us, you know, and now we're so used to the outward clatter all the time. And I think even within that, that quiet, that's where you start to release those, that you release the things that hold you back. It's almost like you have a wall around your inner voice, and that needs to kind of fall away. It's not so much of having to like be really quiet and listen, really think, because it's such a, like, you know, quiet voice. It's really not. It's about letting go of the clatter. It's about releasing it. One of the things that I often pass on to my clients when they're really struggling with that concept is a simple exercise that I call the octopus. So what you do, now here you go. All right, here, this is actually what you do is you imagine the image of an octopus, right? And you imagine the core body, and you imagine all of the arms shooting out. And you imagine this as your to-do list, basically. So you have your arms spread out, and each tentacle of that octopus is another item that you give your focus to. So everything from, you know, your kids, your spouse, your work, your email, your house cleaning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you imagine the energy of all of that going out. So your focus is all over the place, scattered in all these directions. And within one moment, with a deep breath, you take all those arms and you bring them in. And you drop inside to the core of the octopus. You would never identify that octopus, if you saw an octopus, as those tentacles. You would drop it into the center space. So when you drop to that center space, you find the space within you. And when you drop within you, and you take a deep breath, tentacles down, you just allow yourself to feel maybe a word that comes up, or an image that comes up, or feeling that comes up. And you'll usually find you're gifted some anchor in that. So I've had people do the exercise and they'll be like, oh, I just feel really sacred. And it's like, well, then just use the word sacred. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can drop that into that heart space and just say the word sacred. And that resonates as you. And then you're in that space of allowing that inner voice to flow. And you're sending a message out when you do those kind of things. You know, you're really holding up something different of saying, okay, inner voice, speak your piece. Okay, universe, show me what to do. Okay, like you're jump stepping reality to letting go of those things. You have to learn how to bring those in and drop those lists.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. And I will add to that is that don't expect that it'll, okay, all right, I'm centered, it's all in, what you got? You know, that's where that's the place I come from. Like, give me instructions, I'll do it, I'll sit. And then I'm like, I got really, really frustrated because nothing was coming. But it doesn't work that way.
No. And ironically, what's funny and what I you know, when you take that space and you drop into that space, when you come back into the situation, you might not have received the message of how to actually fix that. You often turn around and realize that the situation has passed and your participation in it has eased. You know, if you give your attention too much to a problem, it's amazing how much that problem amplifies.
For sure.
And when you withdraw yourself and you find that center, you know, we can get frustrated that we haven't had that divine inspiration message. But then we turn around and go, I didn't get the message because it wasn't an issue in the first place. And so we kind of, our focus, it's really about just staying connected. Get connected, get connected, get connected. And if you're needed, you will get the message. If whatever you're needed to do, it will flow in at the right time.
It's so hard to be patient, but that's how it rolls, right?
It really does. And often those messages come at what the universe would tell you is the right time, but we really would not.
Right. I know. It works in funny ways. Since we're bumping up the end of time, I have one final question for you.
Sure.
And it's, how do you connect to your true you?
How do I connect to my true me? I connect to my true me by a shift in perspective. It can be looking at a sky. It could be walking my dog and looking into the trees and the sunlight into the trees and remembering who I am. It can be a simple moment of breath. Every morning I wake up and I do my couple of yoga poses, make sure I'm fully awake. I say good morning to the day. I do quick meditation, you know, simple grounding or a quick mantra. And then I make sure that through the day, if I start to feel myself, you know, my blood pressure up at all or anything, that it's spirit first and it is called out and it is everything from, or, okay, help. In those moments, focusing on my feet always works. It's practical application. It's who am I? What am I doing? Who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah, what do I really want?
Yeah. And am I feeling how I want to feel? You know, I love Danielle Laporte's Desire Map. I don't know if you know that one. Yeah. Amazing. And so that's always been that's a really good one for me.
What are your core desired feelings?
My core desired feelings this year, it is joy, passion, and abundance. And then those are all supported by an overall theme of sacred wholeness. And that was the one that was missing. That one took a long time to find. And I love the process of when you're feeling how you don't want to feel. You can simply ask, okay, so I don't want to feel this. So how do I want to feel? And you can pull up those. And there's a magic thing that she's discovered within that, because you just go, oh, I feel so much better. You're right. It's just like the minute you say the words, you just go, oh, so much better. It's one of the things that I do with my community over at Facebook. It's like every Monday, it's like, what are you intending and how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? And those core desired feelings and finding yourself, it's an interesting thing how they bubble to the surface, because there's a deeper part of you that is truly finding those core desire feelings of what you really want to feel, there's a deeper part of you that's bubbling that up to the surface, and you know, it's calling to you and calling you forth. I think that's the thing that often gets caught up. I know we're running out of time, but you got me started talking now.
No, I love it. I mean, because it's made such a difference for me. One of my words is joy too.
Okay.
Joy and freedom are my top two, but I have grace in there as well.
Oh,
and following the joy and finding the freedom. I mean, just if I'm feeling off, if I just find something that puts me in a state of joy, it makes such a difference.
It does. Well, and sometimes even saying the word, like that's what I just go, joy. That was one of the interesting things, is when I was doing energy healing training, we would be working with each other and we would be feeling each other's energy. And if you held a word in your mind when you were doing the energy work, and then you changed the word, the person feeling the energy would go, oh, you just changed it then. And you'd be able to feel it. And once they got us to do the simple exercise of using the word offering and using the word giving. And the difference in those feeling spaces of just those two words, which theoretically should mean the same thing, was really profound. And so just saying a word shifts the message that you're sending out to yourself and the connection that you feel with it. And I just find that so exciting. And you know, it's an interesting thing, because when you do call up those words and when you do decide in the moment, well, how do I want to feel? We have a tendency to think of self-care or connection or finding ourselves or finding our true self as reaching out. You know, it's like, I need to find myself. I need to, and so you hunt and you hunt and you grasp and you grasp. And what I'm working with now with a group that I'm working on is we're really working on the fact that connection, yourself, never leaves your side. It is always with you all the time. You are always present within yourself. It's our minds that are shutting that off. So you don't have to actually reach and hunt it out. You're not lost. You know, you're not having to find it. You're just literally having to turn the tap on. Just turn it on. Just go, oh, hi. You know? And it's there. We have a tendency to make it a big struggle that we have to unpackage, you know? And I think it's really important that we remember that as easy as it is to disconnect from that, it's just as easy to connect. Does not have to be that big a deal.
So true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been such a fun conversation. I can feel like we can talk forever, but
I know.
wrap it up. Thanks again for being here, Christina.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much. Love and light, everyone. Okay. Bye.